woman couldn't lead the country, and a woman of mixed race.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened, you lying sack of It was mixed drinks, not mixed races. True, though, Joe may be demented, but I guess being a conniving, race-baiting loon is the last thing to go. Biden also trashed Trump, asking why he's going after...
You won't believe what transpired when Megyn Kelly and Greg Gutfeld attacked The View following Joe Biden's most recent interview that made headlines. They brought the refreshments and appeared to have front-row seats to a live TV show. Be prepared for a full-on breakdown of daytime drama that ensued, and believe me when I say that The View hasn't received this much attention in a long time. See why Gutfeld and Kelly may have discovered their new favorite target by continuing to watch.
Start with what just happened over the past 62 minutes on The View. And it's not even one of my wacky View clips for you where we just make fun of Sunny or Joy. I mean, we love those. But this is like legit Joe Biden, who's on, well, you guys will tell me what he's doing here. And I'll tell you what Mark Halpern says. He's on some sort of a rehabilitation tour. Okay. Anyway, he goes onto The View, and it wasn't rehabilitative at all.
While responding to a simple question, Joe Biden was doing his best impression of someone who had realized they had forgotten their keys in the refrigerator. His most recent interview was a masterclass in bewilderment, not in the profound sense, but rather in the sense of how could this be real? It seemed as though the president was speaking in riddles as the teleprompter rambled through each line. No one jumped in faster than Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly after it aired, and watching it was like deciphering a jumbled text message in real time.
Oh, who just stunk up The View? The Bidens joined The View this morning for the entire hour. The audience was caught off guard, but knew something was up when they saw a dozen Secret Service agents and 2 embalmers. There were a few awkward moments, though, when a confused Joe asked if he could bid on the showcase. But was he surprised?
Now, Greg Gutfeld is the answer if you've ever pondered what might result from the union of a stand-up comedian and a perceptive TV host. When Biden's interview went over more than an open mic at an empty bar, Gutfeld didn't just make a few jokes. He practically turned it into a full-fledged roast tour, bringing that energy directly into The View's most recent reaction segment. The man had a reputation for transforming political awkwardness into viral commentary.
Speaking of those around him who covered up his infirmity, or at least that's where my mind went, Dr. Jill was there too, and as usual, came to the rescue. Watch SOT 38.
A lot of just basic issues, and which I won't go into in the interest of time.
The people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us, and they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day. Joe worked really hard. I think he was a great president.
She says none of these people writing the books work for us. Well, one of the first to have his book hit interviewed Ron Klain, who was Joe Biden's chief of staff for almost all of his presidency. And he went on the record saying that Biden thought he was president of NATO. Where was that follow-up, ladies of The View?
It was like seeing someone light a match and drop it on a pile of pyrotechnics, because Gutfeld's comments was so incisive. You could smell the impending explosion, feel the tension building, and knew that something was going to blow up. In addition to pointing out Biden's string of grammatical errors, Gutfeld also focused on The View, which attempted to gloss over the entire interview catastrophe the way he entered it. It was more akin to holding a roast during prime time than it was a political attack.
The View. It's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Here, let's look at this political oddity. You know, it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and 2-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But The View is a victim of the sunk cost.
Be honest, The View would be requesting museum status if they had any greater faith in Biden's performance, but none on the panel appeared to be aware of the reversal. They pretended that the chaotic Biden interview was merely a small setback. Gutfeld truly locked in at that point. Not only was he pointing out Biden's mistakes, but he was attacking The View as if they were the official cleanup crew after a poorly delivered speech. He refused to acknowledge that the wheels had fallen off and painted them as the ones driving the road train, not to mention myself. As Biden's interview unraveled, Kelly, if Gutfeld was the one who brought the heat, arrived with a full tank of fuel. Her technique was a lesson in scathing criticism with a knowing smirk, like your sharpest relative nonchalantly delivering truth bombs. Kelly calmly took her place in the front row and began recounting the catastrophe as if it were primetime television without even blinking.
Now speak the truth, and when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie, now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest, and they could be honest. All they would have to say is, look, we hate Trump so much, we were willing to lie about Joe Biden because we felt he was preferable. We thought our lying and our cover-up was on your behalf. Just say that. You're still scum, but at least you're honest.
Kelly's approach was the exact opposite of Gutfeld's, who played the entertainer and took advantage of every awkward pause for laughs. She went in with precision, her approach cool, calculated, and lethal, like someone who knows exactly where to strike. She carved into Biden's performance with the poise of a seasoned broadcaster. This is a meltdown, she might have thought, but I'll make it look routine. When it came to The View, Kelly wasn't letting them get away with it either. While the panels...
Joe's obviously confused, but it was worse during the break, when he kept calling Whoopi Regis.
A full day, and then at night I'd be in bed, reading my book, and he was still on the phone reading his briefings, just working with staff. I mean, it was nonstop.
Right, Jill. And you're an actual doctor. Not one who got her degree off a box of frosted.
Following Biden's unsteady interview, The View attempted to minimize his gaffes rather than confront the facts, seeming more like cheerleaders than analysts. Gutfeld, on the other hand, removed the filter and bluntly described it as a disaster. Then came Kelly, the stern voice, who offered scathing criticism rather than pity. Her remarks were powerful without the need for humor. They were self-contained.
Of books that have come out deeply sourced from Democratic sources that claim in your final year there was a dramatic decline in your cognitive abilities in the final year of your presidency. What is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that. We found ourselves unable to deal with a lot of just basic issues, and which I won't go into. It's interest of time. And so we went to work. The projects, the benefits. How do you lead the world without having the best infrastructure? How do you lead the world without having the best healthcare in the world? How do you lead the world without having the best education system in the world? How do you lead the world?
Kelly's criticism of Biden and the media for acting as though nothing was wrong struck a deep chord. The View portrayed his gaffes as insignificant, behaving more like a publicity squad than thoughtful analysts. They made excuses and dismissed the facts rather than confronting it. Gutfeld was having none of it and attacked Biden and The View, pointing out their denial and bringing the mayhem to light with incisive, unvarnished comments.
They asked him about that moment. Watch this, South 36.
When the vice president was here, I asked her if she would have done something differently than your administration over the past 4 years. And because of all the successes that your administration had, I think her response was, there is not a thing that...
Additionally, Kelly wasn't letting the scenery slide. If Gutfeld provided the flair, Kelly provided the plan, which was composed, laser-focused, and incisive. Her remarks were precise and direct, like a dart. It was like seeing a chess player win the game with a few moves when she took on the vista. The damage was evident by the end. Biden had been completely taken out by Gutfeld and Kelly's tag team. Everyone had a chance, including the media and The View. While Kelly's sobering criticisms ensured that no one forgot how chaotic it had all been, Gutfeld's dry humor and impeccable timing had everyone laughing. Even though the chaos was burning in the background and the aftermath was equally explosive, with Gutfeld and Kelly in the forefront, The View attempted to present the story as though nothing was wrong. The View became the most popular target on the internet. The audience took over the discourse and made it a viral comment storm instead of the hosts.
Happens to you, like this assassination attempt, and you say something like God was watching me. That is a very unchristian thing to say because it's very narcissistic.
Right.
Well, God was watching me and not watching them. There's something very disturbing.
God
should have pulled the plug on that mic yesterday.
That's obnoxious. I don't know what church she goes to. That is how people of faith talk, and the intimation is never he was looking out for me, but not those monsters. It's no, he was looking out for me. It was divine providence. We don't know why he showed his grace on me, and in another instance, this was this tragic death. But it's clear he did, and I want to make something of it. I want to do something good with it. That is a completely normal, insane thing for someone to say. It's totally consistent with what I hear Christians in my life say.
Biden's interview and The View's handling of it were exposed by the incisive criticism of Gutfeld and Kelly. Fans of Gutfeld applauded his accuracy in pointing out the spin, but supporters of traditional media retaliated, feeling uneasy about such direct criticism. However, the outcry quickly expanded beyond the internet, leaving news organizations with a difficult decision: continue as is or acknowledge that Biden might not be the stable leader they portray.
You know, in a 22-minute interview with George Stephanopoulos. But sadly, when Joe heard it was Stephanopoulos, he assumed it was this fella. Snuffleupagus. In a recent interview, Dr. Anthony Fauci said he has, quote, no doubt that Joe Biden is capable of serving as president. He says if Biden was really old and weak, he would have had him killed with COVID.
The uncensored remarks made by Gutfeld and Kelly compelled the media to examine Biden's interview more closely. Others started to notice what they had already mentioned, something felt strange, while others continued to minimize the stumbles. Their audacious strategy changed the conversation's tone in addition to providing entertainment. Biden's reputation has obviously suffered, and his every utterance is being scrutinized. The true question is, how long can they continue to act as though nothing is wrong, when Gutfeld and Kelly are prepared to point out every fault, and The View is still holding out hope?